Imagine two rival magicians in Victorian England. One trick, one impossible trick, and a secret that doesn't just blow minds, it breaks reality. Christopher Priest's The Prestige isn't just about stage illusions, it's about obsession, sacrifice, and how far someone will go to be the best. The book came out in 1995 and won the James Tate Black Memorial Prize and the World Fantasy Award for Best Novel. And yes, it was adapted into that Nolan movie with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. But here's the thing. The book? It's way darker, way weirder, and honestly a lot more disturbing. At its core, The Prestige is a duel, fought with illusions, secrets, and sheer obsession. The story is told through a mix of journals, letters, and diary entries, so you're constantly piecing things together, reading between the lines, and second-guessing everything. Think of it like a historical detective story, but with stage tricks and sci-fi horror simmering under the surface. You've got two main characters locked in a lifelong feud. First up is Alfred Borden, a working-class magician. He's quiet, intense, and methodical. The guy lives and breathes performance, but he's not flashy. He's the type who would rather invent something groundbreaking and never tell anyone how he did it than take a bow. He's all about the craft and integrity, even if it costs him everything. Then there's Rupert Angier, Borden's polar opposite. He's from a wealthy, aristocratic background and he's all about theatricality and showmanship. But after a tragic incident early in their careers, one that Borden may or may not be responsible for, Angier becomes consumed by revenge. And it's not just about ruining Borden's career, it becomes personal, deeply personal. The novel doesn't stay rooted in the 19th century, it jumps to the present day, where their modern day descendants are trying to figure out why their family histories are so tangled, and why this ancient rivalry still casts such a long, eerie shadow. These sections act to frame the story, slowly revealing just how far Borden and Angier were willing to go in their battle to outdo each other. As you read, the book peels back layers of the past, one diary entry at a time, and with each reveal you realise just how deranged this rivalry became. There's sabotage, stolen secrets, moral lines crossed, and at least one scientific discovery that should not exist. What starts as a feud between two magicians ends up pushing the boundaries of science, ethics, and identity. So yeah, it's about magic, but not the kind with wands and spells. This is the kind of magic that costs something, and that cost is everything. The rivalry begins with a seance. Both men are early in their careers, small-time performers trying to carve out a name. Angier and his wife Julia are hosting a spiritualist performance when Borden shows up, trying to expose the trick mid-show, taking professional issue with illusionists who convince people they're making contact with dead loved ones. Things escalate and Julia miscarries the child she was carrying. Whether this is the direct result of the events, no one can really say. But Angier is devastated and furious. He blames Borden for the loss and their professional rivalry turns deeply personal. What could have been a one-off act of sabotage becomes a life-consuming vendetta. The rest of the book is that feud escalating, quietly at first, then dangerously, and finally in ways that twist reality itself. Years later, Borden debuts a trick that blows everyone away, the transported man. He steps into a cabinet on one side of the stage and instantly reappears on another across the stage. It's clean, seamless, and undeniably impressive. No one can figure it out. Audiences are stunned, and Angier becomes obsessed. The trick gets under his skin, and he has to know how it works. The real method behind the illusion is hinted at throughout Borden's diary, but Priest keeps the truth just out of reach until late in the book, and when it finally lands, it reframes everything about Borden's life. Because Alfred Borden is not one man, he's two. Identical twins living a single shared life. They swap places constantly, but to everyone else, they're one magician pulling off a flawless teleportation illusion. That's how the transported man works. There's no tech, no real teleportation, just obsessive commitment. Each twin gave up half a life, living just as one man, showing their devotion to the art. Meanwhile, Angier tries to replicate the act using traditional methods and fails. Desperate, he takes a stranger path. He turns to science, or at least the bleeding edge of it at the time. In the meantime, Olivia, Angia's stage assistant and lover, plays a crucial role. Angia sends her to spy on Borden, but she falls in love with him instead. Together they conspire to mislead Angia, sending him on a futile quest for Borden's technology. It's a personal betrayal that deepens the spiral. He travels to Colorado Springs to meet Nikola Tesla, who agrees to build a machine intended to teleport. However, the machine he builds doesn't teleport at all. It duplicates. It creates a perfect copy of whatever stands inside it. Angia uses this machine in his own version of the transported man, and it works, but every performance leaves something behind. Another Angia, a body that must be hidden, a secret buried, a soul split, or possibly even destroyed. During one live show, Borden inadvertently sabotages the performance, believing the machinery is malfunctioning, tampering with the machine itself. But instead of stopping the trick, it splits Angia in a new and unstable way. From that moment on, two Angias exist simultaneously. One becomes sickly and translucent, as though not quite there. The other remains fully corporeal. The sickly version eventually dies, while the surviving Angia inherits his ancestral home and title, becoming the 14th Earl of Calderdale, hiding away from the world. The novel leaves it unclear whether this Angia is truly whole, or something else entirely. In the present, Andrew Wesley, a journalist and descendant of Alfred Borden, meets Kate Angia, heir to the Angia estate. Andrew has long felt incomplete, plagued by memories of another life, and a sense that he's only half a person. He hears the voice of who he believes to be his twin brother in his head. This becomes more symbolic when Kate reveals a childhood memory. She witnessed an incident involving the machine built by Nikola Tesla, one that resulted in the death of a young boy, a boy who looked exactly like Andrew. Kate confesses that the boy's body was never buried or discussed. Instead, it was hidden away in an underground storage chamber on the Angia estate. She shows him where to go, and what he finds is deeply unsettling. Inside the underground vault are dozens of preserved bodies, copies of Angia created during his performances using Tesla's machine. In the book, these duplicates were not alive in the traditional sense, so there isn't the need for them to be killed during the act, as in the film adaptation. Instead, these duplicated bodies were stored after each performance, creating a grotesque archive of discarded selves. Among these bodies, Andrew finds another, the body of a child, identical to him. At that moment, he hears the voice in his head that seems to belong to this other version of himself. Whether it's a psychic connection, a residual consciousness, or a side effect of the duplication is left ambiguous. Andrew flees the vault, sensing there is someone or something else down there with him. Something alive. He runs back to the house where he and Kate see a figure moving through the estate. Angia, or at least the surviving version of him. The final twist is that the Angia who survived now appears to be immortal, or perhaps aging incredibly slowly. But the true horror lies in the final unanswered question hinted at by the voice Andrew can hear in his mind. Are the preserved bodies, Angia's duplicates, and possibly the child version of Andrew, really dead? Or are they alive and conscious, aware and completely trapped inside their motionless, silent bodies? The book leaves us with that chilling possibility, that these aren't corpses but living prisons, minds unable to act, speak or die, a fate far worse than death, and the darkest consequences of one man's ruthless obsession with success. Or perhaps they're part of a shared consciousness. These questions, however, are left unanswered. The Prestige isn't just about two magicians trying to one-up each other. It's about obsession, identity, and the terrifying lengths people will go to for greatness. It asks what happens when the performance never ends, and when the cost of success is your entire life. Because at its heart, The Prestige is a story about doubling, not just in the literal sense of clones or twins, but fractured selves, secret lives, and the masks we wear so convincingly we forget who we are underneath. It's about the blurred line between art and madness, between dedication and destruction. The characters don't just lose themselves in their craft, they erase themselves entirely in pursuit of something impossible to explain, but essential to who they believe they are. Priest explores how unbridled ambition can hollow you out, how obsessive rivalry unchecked becomes a mirror, each man haunted not by his opponent, but by the version of himself he's trying to defeat. The book asks, how far would you go to protect a secret? How far would you go to win? How far would you go to be remembered? Thanks so much for watching. If you're craving an extraordinary journey through realms unexplored, consider delving into universes directly out of my brain by checking out my sci-fi novels Black Milk and Delphine Descends. You can find more details in the description. Thanks for your support.